Okay.
Greetings and salutations to all you out there on the interwebs. I am Carlos Blanco El Barbero, Pen and Herald, and I will be your host this evening for the August Meridian Heraldic Decision Meeting. Tonight with me, I have a lovely gaggle of heralds, and we'll start with introductions. Let's start off with the Honorable Lord Ulrich.
Hello, everyone. I'm Ulrich Eisenhand. I am the Cipher Pursuivant, which is internal submissions for Meridians.
Matthias.
Hi, I'm the Honorable Lord Matthias Blackett. I am Torch Herald for Meridians. I am in charge of courts and precedents.
Bronwyn.
Hi, I'm Mr. Spurman Ogedwelly. I am White Antelope Herald at Large.
And I've already blanked on her name again, but it's a lovely Viking name. Could you go ahead and give your name for us?
Katla Friston's daughter. I am in the Paducah area of Meridians, and I'm just one of the heralds that got voluntold that I was going to be a herald because of me participating on the SCA Heraldry Chat.
Rosman, you joined us.
Yes, I'm the Honorable Lady Rosamond Playfair, Herald of the Shire of Drakenmere, and roving herald in general.
And joining us through chat, we have Venus Mars' daughter, the deputy to Golden Iris.
Welcome.
All right. So we're looking at the August letter here. We have, what was it? 9, I believe.
I think it's 8 items, eight entries.
We have 8 entries into this letter, so let's get started with Angus Dub MacDonald. A new name, no major changes, and he wants the sound of Angus MacDonald is what's more important to him. There was some conversation. Looks like there were some conversations going back and forth on whether or not the Mac needed to be capitalized or if the dub needed to be capitalized. But I believe the terminations that we came with through by the time we got done with commentary was that dub would be capitalized and Mac would be lowercase.
I believe that's the standard form.
If I remember correctly, granted, I'm not an onomast, but if I remember correctly, that is the case. The mock would be uncapitalized and the rest would be capitalized.
Well, that would be a minor change.
Right, which we can do since he only allows no major changes.
Correct.
Yeah, as long as he's got the sound, he's good.
Yes.
With capitalizing a letter and lowercasing another won't change that.
And as far as I could determine, there were no conflicts with it.
Right now, I'm looking over the very last comment down at the bottom by Adelaide. Because she thinks it should be something a little bit differently.
So she thinks Angus should be an earlier form.
If I'm reading this correctly.
Now changing Angus A-E-N-G-U-S to Angus A-O-N-G-H-U-S is...
I believe that would be a major change.
Yeah. So I think we come down to whether it's registerable as it is or not. He's not requesting authenticity.
No, he's not requesting authenticity. I think what we can do is we can go ahead and make the spelling change and make a note in Pennant's summary, saying that one commenter believed that Angus should be spelled with the O. and leave it that way.
Well, if we change the spelling though to the earlier spelling, shouldn't we just get his okay before we do that? Because
I'm not talking about changing. I'm saying putting it in the notes.
putting it in the notes. Okay.
Yeah, putting it in the notes that they believe that this would be a closer fit. So.
In the annal entry cited in the table in the documentation,
Mm-hmm.
there is an Angus with the spelling that they have used dated to 1468. It's the last entry on that table.
Well, it's close enough that it's definitely going to be registrable.
Right. Like I said, I think just putting it in as down in my notes would suffice and give Laurel something to look over.
I agree. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. So. Change. All right, on to number 2. We have a new device by Ernie Knitter.
No, it's Einar Knitter.
Einar. You know, I just gave him a reward at Daggers.
Yes, Lord, an AOA.
Yeah, Einar Knitter, which is funny. That's the reason why I know it was Knitter, because we said something totally different in court.
I helped him get the name. We found there were 5 previous people registered as Knitter, but they all had female first names. But there was no record that, he just said, I don't care if it's male or female, so it passed.
All right, so he's requesting a device. The blazon is per Pale, Sable, and Ghouls, a thunderbolt between 4 Bisons. We appear to have a problem with the Bisons.
Yeah, I remember.
Well, I don't think it's the ones in base that are the problem, because that's about the only place they can go. But the 2 in chief could be just about anywhere in chief. So would this be the default position for the veterans in this?
Well, as I was reading over the comments and everything, I kept looking, and what I'm seeing is I'm, if the thunderbolt is supposed to be between, it means that they should be as much to the outside of the thunderbolt as possible.
Oh, I see your point. The thunderbolt reaches further to chief.
Right. So I think the ones in chief are not a problem. I think where we come into a problem is that, they're, due to the shape of the escutcheon, they're forced to that center.
And I can't see the image because of me not being able to get into my Oscar, but from the sounds of it, is the fact that they're gonna be too scrunched trying to have the.
Let me see if I can't screen share just for 1 sec for you.
Okay.
Sometimes you can't get into Oscar because you have to get in first on a blank screen, so to speak, and then hit the link that was
Can you
sent.
see it there?
Yes. Oh yeah, I can definitely see where they're talking about the problem, because the bottom 2 are definitely, with them being in base, are forced to be close together.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's just kind of inherently stylistic that's where the problem is.
Yeah, it's a stylization problem. But I think we finally, as we went down and we talked as they talked back and forth, I think if we go with the last blazon that Michael Gerard gave us. Per Pale, Sable, and Ghouls, a Thunderbolt between 4 roundels, 2 and 2 ore. I think that will work because one of the problems that we're having is that there is no default positioning for 4 items, or at least 4 roundels. There's not a default positioning, so we have to, in some way, specify in the blazon that they're done this way. So I think by going with that, because I am definitely seeing a forced issue here with the shape of the escutcheon. If that was squared, I think those bottom basants would have came out more.
Yeah, it's definitely a forced placement issue.
I agree. I think it's partly the problem is just that it's not usually done as a set of 4. 4 is usually in a cross shape.
No,
Correct.
it's usually 2 and 1 on an escutcheon.
On each side of a bend. So putting 2 together at the bottom is unusual.
So I think by stating that it's 2 and 2, I think fixes that blazoning problem.
Well, hopefully so.
So
Yeah, the recreation via blazon only.
Yes.
So we'll send it up with that new blazon, because we've had several say that they found no conflict. So
Yeah, I think this is exclusively a blazon issue.
all right. So we will move on to number 3. It is a new name and new device. Let's concentrate on the name for right now. Gwendolyn Forgotten Sea. The name that she is using for Gwendolyn is an SCA document. Meridian was able to produce a web address for it, and Forgotten Sea is an actual branch. Let's see, another Shire of Forgotten Sea was founded in July of 1979 in the Middle. So.
Oh, okay.
Yes, that was brought to us by Magnus.
Correct.
I was going off of the O&A entry. O&A entry.
Okay.
Unless I read it wrong, says Callantir, but.
Oh, really?
I think, yeah, isn't Forgotten Sea?
I think
No, that's Lonely Tower, isn't it?
I believe Forgotten Sea is the area around Kansas City.
Yeah, it's probably Kansas City because
Kansas City.
I know this
Spinning Winds out in Manhattan and Crescent Moon is Topeka.
This particular individual is in my local group, and she's originally from Kansas City. She's
Forgotten Sea is indeed Kansas City.
Does the Shire still exist, just out of curiosity?
As I know.
The barony exists.
Excellent.
So is it Callantir or Middle then?
Callantir now. It was probably when it was originally made before Callantir became a kingdom.
Yeah.
Locative by name using registered SCA branch name registered 1989 via Callantir.
But it says July of 79 via the Middle in Magnus's message. So
But Callantir branched off of the Middle.
so they had to rebrand it eventually. You could just list both. That would cover everything.
Yeah.
But it's in Callantir. It's not in the Middle.
So yeah, I think what we have here is when it was founded, it was in the middle, and then when Callantyre broke off and everything, and they took Forgotten Sea Wizard and everything, they registered it over.
Well, what happens sometimes is that a branch name that's registered under one kingdom, and after it branches off, it stays that way. Just as a shire that changes to a barony stays that way until they register something else, at which point it's updated. So maybe it just didn't get updated.
Okay. Well, either way, we know the shire. We know the shire exists.
Yes, true.
So,
It's a barony, by the way.
It's a barony now. Okay. So so we have no. I just looked at the docs. I don't see where we have any problem with the name. So we'll go ahead and move on to the device, which is quarterly argent, ermine azure, and azure, 2 quarterfoil knots argent. This one had a good bit of back and forth with.
Thanks for raising the question.
Yeah, good bit of back and forth because it was confusing on whether or not this knot contradicted with another knot and or conflicted with another knot, and it turns out that it doesn't. The quarterfoil knot does not conflict with a lacy knot. There is a CD between them.
So the whole knots thing is not actually accurate.
Correct.
Like a general rule, but then there are specific cases. Like this knot is very different from a lacy knot. But like,
oh yes, it definitely
so like
is.
some knots are really close. So I think it's one of those like general rules with exceptions kind of deal.
And some knots are not.
And welcome, you two. I'm glad to see you two. Kaylin, I've missed you. Welcome back.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I'm actually on business travel right now, but managed to get it.
I was about to say that those curtains behind you look very hotel.
Oh yeah.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, hanging out in the nation's capital today.
Woo!
And somebody was wondering about marshaling.
That was me, but there was a very good answer.
Yes.
It was a treatment of the field. It was not a charge on the field. It was not a semi. So
Right.
therefore it's not marshalling.
Yeah, with it being ermine blue, ermine azure, it's not considered a field, or it's the field treatment instead of a charge.
Right. Even though they're not black, it's still a fur, and a fur is just a treatment. It is not a charging.
Mm-hmm.
So it does not. It's not quarterly marshaling, so we don't have to worry about that. There is no.
Because we don't consider field primary fields to be
Right.
Yeah,
taken into consideration.
A good rule of thumb is if it wouldn't be registered independently by the SCA, it's not considered to be protected.
And there was some conflict checking after that fact, and it looks like that there is not any conflict. So I don't see any reason for this not to be able to go up.
I agree.
Okay, so moving on to number 4.
Kikuchi.
Yeah, Kikuchi Kazumitsu.
Bless you.
Yes, this is the lovely fella who we lovingly refer to as Kikachu down here.
Oh.
As long as he's okay with it.
He jokes.
Yeah, it's better than other names that he could have.
Yeah, he appreciates the joke. So, all right, so he has Argent, a tome Argent with what?
Tomoe.
Tomoe?
And there's 3 of them.
No, the
Hey.
Tomoe is the single thing, isn't it?
Yes.
Well, yeah, but there's 3 of them.
It is 3 Tomoe and Annulo.
Yes.
Okay.
No.
According to Mistholm.
Yeah, I was actually really like when I made my comment on this, I was actually really confused because I thought the whole thing was one Tomoe.
That's what I thought too.
Not in each individual white thing. Or well, it's the blue things, but they make one white thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I thought
weird.
it was one charge too, so that's why I didn't catch some of the stuff that we're talking about now.
When the comment came up that it was a step from period practice, I went to Mistholm and looked it up.
Right. Which
I'm pulling that up now so I can link it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I try to look at it now like instead of one big circle, it's 3 like cat's claws.
Little tadpole-looking thingies.
It's 3 commas.
Yeah, it's 3 commas. There you go.
Or 3 apostrophes. Depending on where you place them.
Yeah, and when you look at it that way, on top of all the SFPP things, I think we also have an issue of number of primary charges because everything's co-primary. I just thought of that now.
They're equally. You don't have the sense that one of them is main charge. I also would not.
Not really. I mean,
Yeah.
Because the feathers are so big. And I mean, there are only 2 types of charges there, but I mean, there's like 7 total charges in the primary charge for your feathers.
Except for the fact that the Tomoe is on a roundel azure.
Wait.
No.
Are they actual? Are they
The
actually?
3 blue things are 3 separate charges in
Yeah.
annual.
Oh, okay. I see the point. I'm looking at it
the
wrong.
blue is the actual
White is
charge.
actually part of the field.
Okay, I see what your point. I see your point. They're conjoined. I was looking at the triscale looking thing in the middle, and that's not.
Yeah, I'm seeing that, and that was the same thing with me.
That triscale looking thing in the middle is the void between the 3 charges.
Except that it looks like a triscale on a roundel azure.
But
Okay.
And we checked. And we checked against that.
I see what you're saying, that it might look like that and cause a conflict, even though it's a different device or a different set of charges.
That's what I'm wondering about. Let me check here, because if it looks the same,
Visual conflict.
Yeah.
you get visual conflict. I doubt it's going to be a conflict because of the secondary charges.
Well, the problem that we're running into before you do that, Ramu, is that we actually have 2 steps from period practice going on in this device.
Yeah.
Which is an automatic kickback.
the orientation of the feathers being one?
Yes, the
Yes.
orientation of the feathers. Now,
Sorry, go ahead.
how could he fix that?
I don't know. They don't even really look like feathers to me without a stem coming out one end.
They are Japanese stylized feathers.
Oh, okay. Then I stand down.
Yeah, that's a
on that.
standard look. I'm still a little curious still about the second SFPP, because reading over the link, I'm not completely sure if SFPP is because in the device that the precedent comes from, if the step from period practice is for charged Tomo or uncharged, because it says here that there's actually an individually attested pattern for uncharged Tomo in annulo in groups of 3, and if that's true, then that wouldn't be a step from period practice, right? Because it would be an IAP. I mean, they'd probably still need an IAP for this, but
the precedent that was quoted in the commentary specifically says Tomoe in groups of 3 may be registrable with a step from period practice.
right, but if you read it in context of everything else, it also says that the IAP that came with that specifically showed that 3 uncharged Tomo in groups of 3 would be fine. So does an IAP automatically transfer to an SFPP when it's correct?
Possibly.
I mean, that might be the case. I'm just.
Yeah, I think that's possibly what's happening. Is anything that we can prove, through an IAP, we make it a step from period practice.
Okay.
So, but the
feathers, the charges in Delft that was kicked back, or it was a step from period practice, was swords, not feathers. Mm-hmm. And almost wondering if we shouldn't go ahead and send this up to Laurel and let them make a decision on this.
Well, I think there's.
We can't make a determination.
Is there like a blanket SFPP for head to tail orientations on inanimate objects?
Their statement was their statement was in that low R was there is a step from period practice for the swords being head to tail instead of all in the standard L-wise orientation.
I see. So that it would have been 2 and 2 instead of 4 forming a square. So that's
I'm finding no examples of a square orientation anywhere in even Japanese heraldry. Yeah. Everything's in circles.
So everybody agrees that would be a step from period practice?
The thing is, we're extrapolating from a precedent that specifically says swords. I think that might be a bit of a stretch.
That's kind of my point. We know that we have one SFPP. We don't know for certain that the other one is.
We believe we have a second one, but
my question was,
there's no definitive precedent that says that is an SFPP, which is why I think we should probably go ahead and send this one up.
Well, my question was if I can get the submitter to agree to flip the orientation of some of the feathers.
I'm not sure there's orientation you could flip them. And to keep the shape, I don't think there's a way you could flip them that would solve that problem.
Yeah, I don't think there is.
It looks like the issue with the sword precedent is specifically that like this, like all pointing up or all pointing like this, and they want definitely like all square.
So you're talking almost a unity of posture issue?
Yeah, so it would be a unity of posture if you took 2 of the feathers and made like the side one point up and then the bottom one point all this way. But those, like individually they're unity, but all as one they wouldn't be.
Okay.
But should we go back to what Matthias said, that he cannot find an orientation of one charge placed 4 times forming a square? I don't even know how that's.
I'm finding no squares in when I'm looking at Mon. Like I'm looking at all different types of Mon right now, and I can't find any squares.
Right.
And so you could just say that the feathers are not in an orientation allowed in STA heraldry, because STA heraldry is.
Now, granted.
Well, I think we would normally call this an annual.
The thing is, I'm looking at Japanese heraldry, which is not what the SCA uses. We are under the assumption that what Kikuchi's trying to do is he's trying to get Japanese elements that will translate well to European heraldry.
Yeah, because that's been one of the biggest arguments even on the SCA heraldry chat is the factor of people that have Japanese personas wanting to in some way translate a Mon into a Europeanized design for registration.
Which we
really flipping hard to do, let me tell you.
The way it was explained to me is, they said that the person who explained to me said this is the way they would do it, and that this is the way they would do it in period. If a visiting dignitary from outside of the European world came, the heralds of the time would would give them a European version of their heraldry. So a mon, so they would actually take whatever this person's mon was and try their best to translate it into what the European rules for heraldry.
And here's the big thing amongst the non-European people is, why can't we just have our own culture's rules when it applies? Of course, then again, you have the Chinese who, well, let's just not get into that argument.
But if we're using too many sets of rules, we really start getting confused, or I would.
Agreed. It would be confusing. It would be very confusing. But like looking at Kikuchi's, for example, he's trying to take like the stylization of the hawk feathers that he's using. That is a distinctly Japanese way of drawing hawk feathers.
But even you said that even in Japanese heraldry, you can't find them in that kind of pattern.
Exactly. I can't find them in that. I can't find them in the orientation, but the way I'm talking about the stylization of the feather itself, the very ovular feather.
Right, but even for Japanese heraldry, it's not clear whether using that feather in that orientation would be a thing.
Yeah, using it in that orientation wouldn't be a thing. They're mostly seen either like, I've mostly seen, the most popular example is them being crossed.
Sounds here.
Maybe we should suggest that he does something like maybe takes that 3 tomo and then puts 2 feathers on the side or above and below. Would that be more? Would that look more?
Maybe the tomo in the middle and then just 2 upright feathers on the side. Of course, then we might think more slot machine, but
or we can
no.
We can take the tomoe from this device and the annulet from the original device. Just replace the feathers with the annulet or something like that.
But we don't.
Or maybe like if you want something square, use like one of those well frames or something like that.
Would there be a way to avoid the slot machine by doing the tomoe on a rondelle with between the 2 hawk feathers?
Well, it still wouldn't be slot machine because you only have 2 types. I mean, you only have
the feathers.
True enough.
That's true. It's not.
You have 2 types of charge.
Yeah, it's not the number of the actual charges. It's the number of charge types.
Right.
So he could potentially have the tomoe in between the 2 upright hawk feathers.
Yeah.
That would remove the stylistic orientation issue.
Yeah, I'll speak with him and see what he wants to do.
So are you going to hold on to it or bounce it back real quickly to him before the end of before you have to submit the letter? Because instead of helping redesign, I feel our purpose is to determine whether it is so non-standard, so step from period practice that we shouldn't forward it, or we should forward it, even if we're not sure, but we think that it should go up to society level.
I think it might have a better of a chance with a redraw, so I may just go ahead and bounce him and say, hey, let's just do it with 2 feathers, and we'll and send it right back to Cipher.
Yeah, it's faster that way.
So.
Yeah, bounce, get the redraw, pretty much restart the submission wherever needs be.
Matthias, you are my closest person when it comes to Asian personas. What
scary.
the tomoe? What do we conflict check that against?
The best. I mean.
Oh, I can tell you that it's Gaut's alembic.
Tri-scale. It visually conflicts with a tri-scale.
And
since a roundel, I'm not sure that they would have a roundel with a tri-scale on it because a roundel is a medium of display.
But
So they wouldn't have it alone on the field.
But
what I can tell you is in the coding, it seems to want to be conflicting with gouts, alembics, and symbols. But that might be just an individual tomoe.
And he's not going to want an individual tomoe. He's going to want them as they did it in Japan, which is the 3 and the roundel, because that's the most common.
Well, in that case, the blazon is still off because it's blazoned as a tomoe.
Yes, it would have to be 3 tomoes in annulo, the way it as it is listed in Mistholm.
Right.
So
is this 3 tomoe thing like the standard? Just from my knowledge, the standard way of it's always shown just these 3. They never do just 1 or 2.
If you just Google the word tomoe, you're going to find the circles.
Okay.
Okay, so is a tomoe technically a group of 3 of these?
No, 1.
No, a tomoe is a comma shaped thing.
Okay. Then in that case, the blazon does need to be corrected.
The blazon does need to be corrected because a tomoe is just a comma type deal. But the way that it's used in Japanese heraldry is most commonly it's 3 of them in annulo to simulate a whirlpool.
What is actually stated in Mistholm is the period examples of tomoes show them used in multiples, 3 being by far most common, always in annulo and with no other charges in the design. This attested pattern as in the illustration has been accepted for society use. And then it says also see gout.
So the tomoe is acceptable, it just needs to be reblazoned correctly.
It would be 3 tomoe in annulo azure.
Okay.
But we don't need to correct the blazon because we're kicking it back. So
yeah,
that's true. But
that helps. That helps me for the redraw.
Yeah, but that's like it pretty much kicking it with the reblazon suggestion helps with redraw and solving some of the problem that exists.
Yeah.
So, all right. So we will. Let me make my note there.
Conrad Winhorn.
Yes. Number 5, new name, Conrad Winhorn.
Hey, Lucian, we know this guy.
Yes, we do.
Submitter prefers the spelling as what is shown first with the K, but will also accept Conrad Winhorn as a double by name. Which I think with Adelaide finding somebody with the name Winhorn as a single word in an obituary, which also showed his date. It was an obituary that showed his date as 1563. That we can definitely go ahead and go with the desired single by name.
I think so too.
And it's German, and so the by name and the given name match up culturally. Because you can't combine English and German, which was part of the issue.
Right. So we have, we have German and German. So,
yeah, just add the Windhorn that was found at the bottom by Adelaide.
Right.
That's a great genealogy site with.
Yes, because the family search that they gave for Windhorn is actually outside of Gray Period, so it cannot be used. 1684.
84, yeah.
But 1562 is fine.
Yeah.
Right, which is why I was asking for them to find that was within the period.
And they did.
Which is what Adelaide found.
Yeah, of course it's Adelaide. And Conrad was dated 1602, so they're less than 500 years apart, and it's in the gray period.
So I think
you're only talking 40 years apart. So
yeah.
Yeah, so I think with the documentation that we have here with the genealogical site along with the picture of the obituary, that we should be able to go ahead and now what is the remind my scatterbrain here for a second. What is the rule for using a genealogical site that is not family search?
Front page of the website and a printout, which maybe they do have the printout.
We have a picture of the actual
citation.
Site. Yeah. All right. That's easy to get.
Yeah, and it's even though it's in Germany, it seems to be linked to a place called Get Persons, so it may be international, if that matters at all. Guess I just have to find out where it is really.
Yeah. All right. So we'll use what was found here, and we'll go from there.
Well, the next one looks interesting.
Oh yeah, let's move on to this Lucian person.
I hear he's a dick.
Yeah.
Hey, we are on Facebook, remember. I mean, we are on YouTube.
We are live on the internet.
Okay.
Oh, the internet is such a pure place.
So says Rule 34. We have two badges. We have one badge here for number 6, which is fieldless, a Catalop Passant Argent.
So I have a quick question about this, since it's technically a chimerical or composite monster, or at least that's how it's coded. How do all like composite monsters generally conflict with each other? Or I found one that's an aleph. What is this? An elephant. Hold on. An alphin. I found one that is quarterly sable and azure, an alphin Passant Argent, and an alphin is also some 4-legged like composite monster. They're both coded the same. I don't know what the ruling on composite monsters are.
Let's try. Elfins under monster other.
Yeah, and so is the catalog.
Let's try.
Alphin, is that spelled ALPHYN?
Yes, it is. I'm on that.
I mean, it sort of visually looks different. That's worth pointing out, but I just don't know.
Okay, we've got a fieldless Alphin Passant Argent, ostensibly sable, so that's clear. We have a Chimera Passant Argent between 3 mullets with an azure field. That would be clear. We have Chevron throughout Gules and Argent, 3 Alphins Passant Argent. That's clear. We have Pale Gules and Azure and Pale 2 Leonine Sagittarius Passant Argent. That's clear. And the last one that seems to be pulled up is Quarterly Sable and Azure and Alphin Passant Argent. Now that we've got the field difference.
Yeah.
If we're going to have a conflict, it's that one.
Well, it does. Do all monsters other conflict with all other monsters other, even if they are very different visually?
I don't see how they could, because you got us under monsters other. They have two and basically antlered rabbits and things like that. I mean, they're visually so different.
Yeah, and the Alphen in this case, it's some kind of like it's a tiger with some evil stuff and dragon's face or something. You know, it's got a much more long, windy tail. It's got its tongue sticking out. That might be enough difference that there's probably a DC there.
I'm trying to get to Mist Home.
And we only need one non-DC or non-field DC, so.
Oral Dictionary of Heraldry. Thing.
I just consulted with the submitter, and he said to go ahead and send it up and let Laurel Wreath make a decision.
I mean, that sounds good to me.
That was a quick consult, listen.
Well
done.
Mist Home says that an Alphen is a monster with a body similar to that of a tiger. Its other characteristics vary, but it is most commonly shown with eagles, forelegs, and a knotted tail. It is used as a badge by Lord D. Law Warren, 1476.
Yeah, I'm looking at both of them, and the front legs and the tail are totally different.
Yeah.
And it doesn't look like it has horns either.
Right.
No, you're true. That's true. It has
elongated ears, but they're not horns.
I mean, I would personally give it a DC. I just thought it was maybe worth bringing.
Yeah, I would give it a DC for visual.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll make a note that we thought that there may be, that we had question about it conflicting with an Alphen, but we believe that there's a visual DC.
Okay, that works.
Mm.
And then this Lucian person has yet another badge.
Busy. What is this?
This dude must be pretty cool if he's got 2 badges.
That must be.
So what is a Zool exactly?
Stylized column.
Yes. I've seen them before.
Oh, it's just a column, okay.
It's common in Dutch heraldry.
I thought it was like a belt buckle or something.
No, it's a stylized column.
Cool.
Often confused with a chest robe.
Only Zool.
I'm glad somebody else was playing around in my head, because as soon as Zool came out, I kept like, oh wow.
That popped into my head as I was doing the badge too. It was like, there is no Dana, there is only Zool.
Are you the gatekeeper?
So I take it, since it's a stylized column, that we have to conflict check it against all columns, and we have 3 comments, all of them saying no conflict. Kaylin, do you see anything?
I just started looking at it. It's worth noting that under the MyCat file, it is only related to chess pieces. So, but I think it probably does conflict with other columns. The
Mist-Home entry does mention that in period it was commonly misconstrued as a chess rook.
Right. Let's see, chess piece.
Let's check that.
I don't think we're going to. I have a feeling we're not going to find anything.
I have a feeling that you're not going to find anything either.
Okay, hold on. It's
Until day, your Jedi mind tricks. Do not look on me. Only money.
I'm looking.
These are not the conflicts you're looking for.
Okay, hold on. I found her pale, azure invert, a chess rook. No, that's old. Why did that come up? Oh, hold on. That's not multicolored. I mean, I'm thinking it looks kind of clear. I do see some other chest hooks that are like, pale multicolor, but none of them are in sable. So,
all right.
Yeah, I think you're good.
So we'll go ahead and send. We'll definitely be sending that one up. With no notes or anything.
Okay.
Number 8. All right, so
Laurel did an excellent drawing of a pokey thing, so I drew them a better pokey thing.
The order of the Irish hot rapier is asking for another crack at their
point stick. Well, it would appear that the only problem that they had with it the last time was the non-period rapier.
Yep.
So the pokey thing has been changed.
Like I said, Laurel didn't like the pokey thing I drew them, so I drew them a better pokey thing.
I think it's called a Pokemon.
That
was the one with the swords we were talking about earlier.
So, I love you
This is
people.
not Pokemon Go. You can't catch them all.
I really love you people. All right, so
now I'm going to register swords in. I'm going to register swords in Annulos so that I can have a Pokemon.
Good.
Yeah, I agree. I think changing this to a more period style rapier has fixed the problem, and I don't see any reason to go ahead and send this back up to Laurel.
You don't see any reason why to send it up.
No reason not to send it up.
Yeah, as long as it's still not conflicting, it's probably.
Yeah, that is a sweet redraw.
Yeah, it's nice and clean. So. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that actually does it for the letter. So we are done there.
Short letter.
56 minutes.
So
short.
I thank you very much for your work and for your input and everything, and we'll have this letter out at the end of the month. Until then, good night to all you out there on the interwebs.